All right, welcome. Welcome everyone to what I'm calling session 183 continued. All right, it was pointed out to me by, I believe it was my friend William in the Kingdom of Fife, told me that I had drifted back into chapter 23. All right, and when I checked the video, there it was, drifting like a helium balloon. All right, so I'm just going to pick up with section 1 in chapter 24, Specialness as a Substitute for Love. Because when I went over the other session, I did at least go over the introduction and some of this, but I drifted back. And it was just, I was referencing an idea, one of the tenets of the Course. Jesus says the same things in different ways, so I went back to chapter 23. And I'm laughing at myself. I said, it's like I was driving from here to California, and I stopped off in Arizona, and it was so beautiful that I forgot to go to California. Okay. I stayed there. So here we are, drifting. All right. Well, today we're going to drift with a purpose. All right. So we're on page 499. All right. We are in chapter 24 called The Goal of Specialness. And if you want to think of specialness, because sometimes it's a confusing thing to grasp, it's a confusing concept to grasp. Just think of it as separation of the process of, or the desire to be an individual. You want to be special, all right? You don't want to be part of the oneness, all right? It's like I come from a large family. I have 4 brothers and 4 sisters. All right, and we had my grandmothers living in the house at one point, and all right. But I was born on my mother's birthday, so I used to, I was brought up joking. I used to say my family was so big I didn't even have my own birthday. So here we go. I was special. I wanted to be special. Right? And that's the way it is. We want to be individuals. So this is the goal of specialness. And this section is specialness as a substitute for love. Because love is what you are. And it's something that in our condition we really can't define what that is. So what Jesus says we're trying to do here is to remove the blocks to the awareness of love's presence. Okay? So here we are. All right? Specialness as a substitute for love. Love is extension. To withhold the smallest gift is not to know love's purpose. Love offers everything to everyone. Love offers everything forever. Hold back but one belief, one offering, and love is gone. Because you asked a substitute to take its place, and now must war, the substitute for peace, come with the one alternative that you can choose for love. Your choosing it has given it all the reality it seems to have. All right? And I remember saying that was one of the earliest lessons. Lesson 2, lesson 3, I forget. That I give everything all the reality it has. I put the meaning on everything. Right? Your choosing it has given it all the reality it seems to have. So my choosing to believe that I could be separated, I could be individual, gives it all the reality that I think it has. It's how powerful the mind is. Okay? And he's telling us that love is extension. This is our function in the oneness. That's it. To extend love as God does, the primary source. Okay. And to withhold the smallest gift is not to know love's purpose. Love offers everything forever. I know I added a few words there. Love offers everything forever. Hold back but one belief, one offering, and love is gone because you asked a substitute to take its place. So love is inclusive, even in our experience, especially in our experience. It has to include everyone. All right? Because if it leaves one person out, one thing, it leaves one thing out, it's gone. It's not love. At one point, Jesus describing something, he goes, call it what you want, but don't call it love. All right? And remember, he said recently, what is not love is murder. Okay? And no matter how innocent we think it is, right? Oh, I just thought, what an idiot. It's pretty mild, right? But remember, he also says no order of difficulty. That's holding back love just a little. It's all gone. Okay? And now must war, the substitute for peace, come with the one alternative that you can choose for love. All right? If I choose individuality, specialness, along with it comes war. Conflict. I'm now in conflict with all the other special individuals. Right? And your choosing it has given it all the reality it seems to have. Right? Paragraph 2. Beliefs never openly attack each other because conflicting outcomes are impossible. But an unrecognized belief is a decision to war in secret, where the results of conflict are kept unknown and never brought to reason, to be considered sensible or not. And many senseless outcomes have been reached, and meaningless decisions have been made and kept hidden, to become beliefs now given power to direct all subsequent decisions. Mistake you not the power of these hidden warriors to disrupt your peace. For it is at their mercy while you decide to leave it there. The secret enemies of peace, your least desire to choose attack instead of love, unrecognized and swift to challenge you to combat and to violence far more inclusive than you think. They are there by your election. Do not deny their presence, nor their terrible results. All that can be denied is their reality, but not their outcome. Okay. Very powerful paragraph. It says, beliefs will never openly attack each other because conflicting outcomes are impossible. Right? So what he's telling us is that in the ego thought system, we're told to repress the fact that I believe I separated from God. Repress that. Right? Because I think I'm free. So these conflicting outcomes, all right, I don't want them to be possible. They can't be possible. It's either one or the other. Either I'm free, I'm an individual, or else, I'm not. And I have to look at that and find out why I'm really not free, even though I'm kidding myself. All right? And this is why he suggests very strongly that we be willing to consider, to question every value that we hold, everything that we believe in, everything that we think is valuable, right? Everything that we think we love, right? And the beliefs that lead us to things that we don't love. Question everything, he's telling us, right? Because an unrecognized belief, if I'm repressing, I want to get back to the original belief, all right? That belief that said, I believe I'm separated from God, right? Because if I'm repressing that, right, it's a decision to war in secret, right? Where the results of conflict are kept unknown and never brought to reason. In other words, bringing things to reason is bringing things to the right mind. Which we symbolize by Jesus. When I asked Jesus, is this reasonable? Is this right? In other words, help me to see it correctly. All right? Otherwise, I'm not looking. I'm not looking. It's a decision to war in secret. All right? To make believe I'm not at war with myself or God. I'm just going to make believe, right? Where the results of conflict are kept unknown and never brought to reason to be considered sensible or not. All right? And many senseless outcomes have been reached. All right? Many senseless outcomes have been reached. I'll do this, I'll go this way. I'm going to do that. Everything, all right? And many meaningless decisions have been made and kept hidden, right? To become beliefs now given power to direct all subsequent decisions. All right? And he says, don't kid yourself. They're very powerful. Mistake you not the power of these hidden warriors to disrupt your peace, those decisions to, I don't like this, I don't like that. This one's this one's that. Right? These are the hidden warriors, and they disrupt my peace. Right? I'm not, how could you be totally peaceful if every time you see this person, you have to remember why you don't like them. You're not totally peaceful. I mean, everything. All right, these hidden warriors. Right? Because it is at their mercy while you decide to leave it there. Your peace is at their mercy while you decide to leave it there. So I'm not asking Jesus, help me see this person correctly. I'm willing to see this person correctly. So I'm not asking Jesus for help. All right? I'm just leaving it there, as he says here. All right? And so my peace, my peace is under their control. My peace is at their mercy while you decide to leave it there. The secret enemies of peace, your least decision to choose attack instead of love. Your least decision to choose attack instead of love. Okay? Remember that while you're driving. Okay? And if we leave them unrecognized, right, if we just let it go, repress it, like it's a normal thing to do, all Right? So these secret enemies of peace, right? Your least decision to choose attack instead of love, unrecognized and swift to challenge you to combat and to violence far more inclusive than you think, are there by your election. And they're there by my election because of the original belief that I'm separated from God. Now, it becomes, it's a you or me world. I asked God to recognize my individuality, my specialness, and there was no response. I became angry. I said, okay, no problem. It's you and me. I'm going to do it myself. And here I am. And what we do here is reflect that decision. Right? So the least little thing that we do to hold back the extension of love, it's a clarion call to war, actually. And it's far more inclusive than you think. Right? He says you don't realize the repercussions of that choice. And it's all there by your election. Do not deny their presence, nor their terrible results. All right? So don't deny it. Don't kid yourself. Oh, I don't hate the guy. I was just having a bad day. Stuff like that. Or even you look. A lot of people don't like themselves. All right? He says, don't deny it. All right? But don't feel bad about it. Just look at it with Jesus. Look at it with that idea of unconditional love surrounding you. Help me to see myself correctly. Help me to see this other person correctly. All right? So do not deny their presence nor their terrible results. In other words, look at everything. Bring it to reason to see if it's sensible or not. Right? Is it really sensible that I really hate myself? All right? Is it really sensible to hate this person? Right? You don't like they chew too loudly or something. Whatever. Because he says all that can be denied is their reality. If I'm looking at these things with the help of Jesus, with the help of reason, right, I can deny the fact that they are real. They're not real. They are part of the illusory experience that we're having here. And we start chipping away at the dream. All that can be denied is their reality, but not their outcome. Okay? So that least little decision to choose attack, right? We can deny its reality with help, but we cannot deny the outcome. We see the outcome. And that's what after a while, we don't want that outcome anymore. Paragraph 3. All that is ever cherished as a hidden belief, to be defended though unrecognized, is faith in specialness. This takes many forms, but always clashes with the reality of God's creation and with the grandeur that he gave his Son. What else could justify attack? For who could hate someone whose self is his and whom he knows? Only the special could have enemies, for they are different and not the same, and difference of any kind imposes orders of reality and a need to judge that cannot be escaped. Right? All right, so all that is ever cherished as a hidden belief, all right, so all that I'm repressing, the biggest thing I'm repressing is that belief that I'm an individual, that I'm not part of the oneness. All right? And to be defended, though unrecognized. I don't realize that that's the motivation for my life here. So it's unrecognized, but I defend it. I'm an individual. You can't do that to me. I'm an individual. Give me that. I need it more than you do. And it goes on and on. All right. So the only thing that is ever cherished is the faith in specialness. And when he says the faith, he means the belief. I've invested in the specialness, the idea that I'm an individual. All right. And he says, and look, this takes many forms. Just look around. And just look at things, that's all. You don't feel any shame about it, really, because we're trying to get out of here. We're trying to, sweep this stuff away so that we can remember who we really are. That big S self, the true self. Okay? So this idea of specialness takes many forms, but it always clashes with the reality of God's creation, right? And with the grandeur that he gave his son. So this idea that I'm separated and I'm special, he says, it always clashes with the true grandeur that you really are. Right? It clashes with the reality of God's Son, he's telling us. All right? What else could justify attack? For who could hate someone whose self he is? Right? How could we hate anybody who is us? How could I hate someone who is me, my true self? All right? Talking about the true self, right? The offspring of the primal source, the offspring of God. Right? How could you hate something or someone that's just like you? Right? Only the special could have enemies. Right? So only the separated people, only the separated can have an enemy. For they are different and they're not the same. This current world that we exist in, this atmosphere of pointing out differences and hating them and fearing them, it's so out in the open. Right? Hopefully it will be cured. People hate people that are different from them. They're afraid of people that are different than they are. My goodness. And it's rampant. This is the history of the world, actually, but where I live, it's in the past several years, it's just so obvious. Like the song said, pair lines being drawn. All right? Nobody's right if everybody's wrong. Right? Everybody pointing a finger at one another. And this comes because of we believe we're separated from God. He's telling us flat out the only reason for all these troubles is that we believe we're separated from our source. I believe I'm separated from my Father. Right? And so are you. And you're all different, all right? And you all scare me, to tell you the truth. All right? And what do frightened animals do? They attack. Only the special can have enemies, for they are different and not the same. And difference of any kind imposes orders of reality and the need to judge that cannot be escaped. All right, at one point in the text, Jesus says, you cannot not judge. He loves those double negatives. In other words, by being ensconced in this ego thought system, you can't help yourself. You judge because you see something that's different from you, and you have to make quick assessments at times, right? And then you make judgments, right? It's only when we can go to the right mind and ask, is this judgment sensible? Is this really what's happening? You know, help me to see it correctly so that I cannot judge. All right. Remember the Holy Spirit's judgment, the last judgment, is that everything is either a call for love or an extension of love. Right? We can narrow everything down, and we can ask Jesus for help with that. Help me to see correctly. And if it's a call for love, we can supply the love if we can. Right? And if it's an extension of love, we could just bask in it, absorb it, reinforce our own. Right? And a difference of any kind imposes an order of reality. Right? Some are better, some are not. And a need to judge that cannot be escaped. Right? We see difference, we judge it, we attack it. That's the ego condition. Right? And he says, don't be afraid to look at that urge in yourself. Right? Just look at it without condemning yourself. Say, oh yeah, that's what egos do. I would like to, escape this ego thought system, please. All right? That's what the right mind is for. He refers to it as reason here in this section. We go to the place where reason exists, and we say, could you show me what's reasonable here? Okay, paragraph 4. What God created cannot be attacked. For there is nothing in the universe unlike itself. But what is different calls for judgment, and this must come from something better, someone incapable of being like what he condemns, above it, sinless by comparison with it. And thus does specialness become a means and an end at once. For specialness not only sets apart, but serves as a grounds from which attack on those who seem beneath the special one is natural and just. The special ones feel weak and frail because of differences, for what would make them special is their enemy. Yet they protect its enmity and call it friend. On its behalf, they fight against the universe, for nothing in the world they value more. Okay, so what can make us special is our enemy. That's the ego thought system. The idea that I separated from God. All right? And yet, once I believe that, I feel weak, all right, and frail because of the differences, all right, because of all these gradations, all right, all these orders of reality, you're the fastest guy in the world until somebody comes along that's faster. But what he's saying is what God created cannot be attacked. There is no attack in the oneness. All right? Because there's only the one, the oneness. Right? There's nothing that conflicts with it. There's nothing that's separated from it. So in the oneness, you don't see something that's different than you. And so you judge it and attack it. In reality, that doesn't happen. What God created cannot be attacked. We can only imagine the attack when we believe we're separated. But what is different calls for judgment. Right? So, here in the ego thought system, I'm different. Automatically, I'm different. I'm different than God, the first thing. Right? Then I have to assess God and judge God. Right? And then attack. And then project the attack onto God. No, he's going to get me. This is what we're trying to undo, folks. All right? Don't give up. All right? But what is different calls for judgment, and this must come from someone better. So I'm judging. All right? Can't you hear it in the people that vociferously judge others? All right? They're better. These people are disgusting. These people are ignorant. And I'm so much better because I'm not like them. All right? But what is different calls for judgment, and this must come from someone better, someone incapable of being like what he condemns. Right? I'm not like them. It's impossible for me to be like them. Right? Ooh, look at them. Right? And you're above it. And you're sinless by comparison. They're the guilty ones. I'm way above that nonsense. Right? And thus does specialness become a means and an end at once. For specialness, separation, not only sets me apart from the oneness and everyone else, all right, but it serves as a grounds from which to attack those who seem beneath the special ones. All right. So it makes me separate, and then it shows me that I'm above them, so I can attack them. And it seems like that's the right thing to do. But in actuality, the special ones, those of us who believe in separation, we're separated, we feel weak and frail because of differences. I don't have the strength of the oneness. The invulnerability of the oneness is gone, so I think. All right. The special ones feel weak and frail because of differences. For what would make them special is their enemy. The ego would make me special. The ego is the enemy. All right. Yet, they protect its enmity. So we protect the ego and we call it friend. Right? I love my specialness. I love my individuality. I want my own birthday. All right? Yet they protect its enmity and call it friend. On its behalf, on the ego's behalf, they fight against the universe. For nothing in the world they value more. Nothing in the world I value more than my individuality, my specialness. Paragraph 5, specialness is the great dictator of wrong decisions. I can hear my father saying something like that. Specialness is the great dictator of the wrong decisions. Here is the grand illusion of what you are and what your brother is. And here is what must make the body dear and worth preserving. Specialness must be defended. Illusions can attack it, and they do. For what your brother must become to keep your specialness is an illusion. He who is worse than you must be attacked, so that your specialness can live on in his defeat. For specialness is triumph, and its victory is his defeat and shame. How can he live with all your sins upon him? And who must be his conqueror but you? Right? I see how terrible he is. I have to do away with him. It's my duty. So he says specialness is the dictator of wrong decisions. Right? Once I believe I'm separated from God, all the other decisions are wrong. Right? Except that decision to go to the right mind. Except that choice. Help me to see correctly. Right? The choice for the oneness. Everything else is incorrect. Here is the grand illusion of what you are. So it's the grand illusion. I am separated. And so is everybody else. And so is your brother. Right? And here's what must make the body dear and worth preserving. Right? The body is the symbol of my separation, my uniqueness. Right? Sometimes you wish you had a better uniqueness, but it's the way it goes here in the illusion, right? That order of difficulty, right? The gradations. All right? But the body is dear and worth preserving. Specialness must be defended. That's what we think. All right? This idea of separation has to be defended. Illusions can attack it, and they do. Everything here is an illusion. Right? So all these other illusions that are running around, they can attack. They can attack verbally, psychologically, emotionally, physically. Right? You get sick, viruses attack. Right? Mosquitoes attack. Illusions can attack it, and they do. For what your brother must become to keep your specialness is an illusion. So in order to keep my specialness and to prove it to myself, everybody else has to be kept in specialness too. All right? And he who is worse, that's the other guy, the other person, he who is worse than you must be attacked. All right? They're the guilty people. Get rid of them so that my specialness can live on in their defeat. Right? For specialness is triumph, and its victory is his defeat and shame. So my specialness, my belief that I separated from God, is my belief that I triumphed over the oneness. I triumphed over God. And it trickles down here. Trickle down specialness. All right? And its victory is his defeat and shame. It's God's defeat, it's everybody else's defeat. Right? And because I have to project that unworthiness onto everyone else in order to get rid of it, because I'm the better of the two. So how can they live? How can he live with all your sins upon him? And who must be his conqueror but you? Right? How can they live with all that guilt that I'm projecting onto them? And who can be the conqueror except me, because I'm the innocent one. All right, I'll show you who the guilty people are, and we'll get rid of them. Right? And then Jesus asks us a question here. He says, would it be possible for you to hate your brother if you were like him? Could you attack him if you realized you journey with him to a goal that is the same? Would you not help him reach it in every way you could if his attainment of it were perceived as yours? Specialness can never share, for it depends on goals that you alone can reach. And he must never reach them, or your goal is jeopardized. Can love have meaning where the goal is triumph? And what decisions can be made for this that will not hurt you? All right? So would it be possible for you to attack your brother, to attack the other person, if you knew that you were like him? All right? And could you attack him if you realized that you journey to a goal that is the same? You're going to the same place. All right? And if you realized you were going to the same place, wouldn't you help? Wouldn't you help him get there? All right. He says, like, wouldn't you help him get to that goal if you perceived that the attainment of the goal would help you? It would be the same as you attaining the goal. Right? Would you not help him reach it in every way you could if his attainment of it were perceived as yours? You are his enemy in specialness. So in separation, you are his enemy. Right? And you are his friend in a shared purpose. Right? And we can see this shared purpose, begin to see it by realizing that we all have the same need. Everyone we come in contact with has the same need. The need to escape from this ego thought system. The need to escape from the belief that we're separated from God. That we're separated from the creation, from the oneness. So we're all the same in that. We could start there. Okay? You are his enemy in specialness. When I think I'm separated. But you are his friend in a shared purpose. Specialness can never share, for it depends on goals that you alone can reach. All right? It's me or you in the idea of specialness. All right? I need this. If you have it, I'm going to take it. If it's over there, I'm going to beat you to it. And if I have it, you're not getting any of it. All right? It can never share because it depends on goals that you alone can reach. And he must never reach them, or your goal is jeopardized. Okay? I mean, bring it down out of the lofty poetry and words here. All right? If someone cuts in front of you in the grocery store, your goal is jeopardized in your separated mind. All right? You might have a special reaction to that. Hey, the line starts over here. All right? I frequent the grocery store, which seems to thrive on chaos. Right? I mean, especially since the pandemic. They have like 4 open registers, but it's like, they have 4 or 5 different lines and everybody next and woof, 3 people go. There's no one there to like like at another grocery store, they have a person that says, okay, register 18, this one, that one. This store is just completely special. All right, so you might have a reaction. Hey, I was next. So your goal is jeopardized. All right, and he says that's the thinking of the ego. It might sound simple, right? It might sound silly, all right? But that's the way we behave. This guy's going for my job, right? This person is interviewing, and this is, this is the job I want. All right? I mean, there's so many situations like that. Not just with grocery stores and jobs. It's like, it seems like life is one big competition at times. Right? So, and he must never reach that goal, or your goal is jeopardized. Can love have a meaning where the goal is triumph? All right. Can love have a meaning if somebody loses in order that I triumph? Is that love? And what decision can be made for this that will not hurt you? So, I mean, it sounds, like I said, a grocery store example sounds silly, trivial, right? But that decision to make sure that person doesn't get in front of me, right? That fighting, he says, just the thought will hurt you. Right? What decision can be made for this competition, this idea of differences, and one or the other? He says, what decision can be made for this that will not hurt you? And the reason we get hurt, or the way we get hurt, is that we're not peaceful. We're just not peaceful. I mean, if you had an argument in the grocery store, you would probably feel that lack of peace for a long time. You'd be reliving the incident just to make sure that you were right. All right, and that's what he means. But it will hurt you. It will hurt you because it's an obstacle to your peace. Paragraph 7, your brother is your friend because his father created him like you. There is no difference. You have been given to your brother that love might be extended, not cut off from him. What you keep is lost to you. God gave you and your brother himself, and to remember this is now the only purpose that you share. And so it is the only one you have. Could you attack your brother if you chose to see no specialness of any kind between you and him? Look fairly at whatever makes you give your brother only partial welcome, or would let you think that you are better off apart. Is it not always your belief your specialness is limited by your relationship? And is not this the enemy that makes you and your brother illusions to each other? All right? All right, so he says our purpose is to share the oneness, to share the love. He says God gave you and your brother himself. All right, there is no distinction. And to remember this now, so to remember this is the purpose that we have. That's our purpose here in this experience, so to speak, is to remember our connection to God. All right? Remember the goal of this course is peace. right? Because peace is the condition in which God is remembered. All right? So it's our function now to remember God, to brush away those obstacles to peace, to bring them to the right mind, to be questioned. All right? He says, your brother's your friend because your Father created him like you. There is no difference. Right? Everyone has the spark. All right? Everyone has the light of heaven in them, no matter how dim we think it is. But we ask Jesus, help us see beyond whatever it is that is making it dim. All right? Help us to see correctly. All right? Could you attack your brother if you chose to see no specialness of any kind? All right? So could we attack if we didn't see any differences? If you were the same as me, we wouldn't attack. And he's saying you are all the same, not in this form here. Right? In reality, in the oneness, you are the same. So once again, he's telling us to look. He says, look fairly, right? Paragraph 7, sentence 8. Look fairly at whatever makes you give your brother only partial welcome. Right? So let's look at it. And look at it without any kind of judgments on ourselves. And ask for help. Help me to look at this. Why am I withholding love from this person? I mean, we're talking about the true essence of love. All right, look fairly at whatever makes you give your brother only partial welcome, or would let you think that you are better off without them. All right, we're better off apart from them. All right, it is not always your belief. Is it not? Is it not always your belief your specialness is limited by your relationship? So my individuality, my uniqueness, my specialness is limited by this guy, this girl, this woman, all right? Or whatever. You know, my uniqueness is limited by this job that I have. This is not who I am. Right? I should be a catcher for the New York Yankees. All right. He says, so just look at it. Look fairly. Right? At whatever makes you give your brother only partial welcome. Is it not always your belief that your specialness is limited by your relationship? And is it not the enemy that makes you and your brother illusions to each other? Right? Is it not the ego that makes you and your brother illusions to one another? Right? We don't see correctly in the ego. Everything is illusory. Paragraph 8, the fear of God and your brother comes from each unrecognized belief in specialness. There it is again. For you demand your brothers bow to it against his will, your brother, and God himself must honor it or suffer vengeance. Every twinge of malice or stab of hate or wish to separate arises here. For here, the purpose that you and your brother share becomes obscured from both of you. You would oppose this course because it teaches you and your brother are alike. You have no purpose that is not the same, and none your Father does not share with you. For your relationship has been made clean of special goals. And would you now defeat the goal of holiness that heaven gave it? What perspective can the special have that does not change with every seeming blow, every slight or fancied judgment on itself? Right? So when we believe that we're separated from God, we're special, right? He says, what kind of a perspective do you think you're going to have? What perspective can the special have that doesn't change with every seeming blow? Right? The perspectives change with everything that happens outside. Each slight, every time I think someone insulted me, right? Every time I think somebody's judging me, my perspectives change. So once again, he said, look, you have to be willing to look at everything and, all those things. It's the beginning of paragraph 8. The fear of God and of your brother comes from each unrecognized belief in specialness. Each unrecognized belief that I am separated from God. This is why he says, just keep bringing everything up. Bring it to me and we'll correct it. We'll look at it together. We'll look at it with love around us. No judgment. We're here to correct. All right. The fear of God and your brother comes from each unrecognized belief in specialness. For you demand that your brother bow to it against his will. So I demand that the other people in my life bow to the idea of specialness, individuation, separateness. And God has to honor my separateness too, or else suffer the vengeance. I'll do it myself, watch. I'll make up a universe. Okay, how's that working out? All right, but that's the ego thought system, right? And he says every twinge of malice, just that little, oh, I hate that guy, right? Somebody enters the room, or you see somebody on TV, or, somebody gets on the bus, and there's that little twinge of malice, oh. Right? Or every stab of hate could be just a little bit more than a twinge of malice. All right? So every twinge of malice or stab of hate or wish to separate arises here. Right? Arises in those unrecognized beliefs. That unrecognized belief to be that you're separate. He says all these things arise from that. For here the purpose that you and your brother share, which is the extension of love, right? But here, in that aftermath of believing I'm separated, all right, the purpose becomes obscured for both of you. And you, he says, you would even oppose this course. Right? You fight against it or just leave it. Right? You would oppose this course because it teaches you that you and your brother are alike. I don't want to hear it. Don't hand me that. Oh, and it just dawned on me. I pick out this shirt because I wanted to wear something indigo today, but the mathematical symbols, all right, equal is greater than division. How fortuitous is that? I didn't plan that one, but it just struck me. All right, and we fight against that. All right? We fight against equality. All right? Because we're afraid we're going to get dominated. He's going to get mine. All right? He's going to get to the goal before I do, and my goal is going to be hampered. All that nonsense. All right? For here the purpose that you and your brother share becomes obscured from both of you. And you would oppose this course because it teaches you and your brother are alike. You have no purpose that is not the same. Right? Our same purpose is to extend everything, extend love everywhere. Here in this dream, our purpose is forgiveness. In other words, to see correctly. The desire to stop my projecting of guilt and have it corrected. Right? That's the purpose here in the dream. Right? You have no purpose that is not the same, and none your Father does not share with you, for your relationship has been made clean of special goals. And would you now defeat the goal of holiness that heaven gave it? All right? So, do you want to keep defeating that goal that heaven gave you, that goal of holiness? All right? And he says, what perspective can the special have that does not change with every seeming blow, every slight or fancied judgment on itself? All right? And, there's another section called, I believe it's the ego as an adjustment. We constantly may have to make adjustments because we made the initial adjustment by believing I'm not part of the oneness. Now, I got to keep adjusting to things. I got to keep changing my perspectives. I used to like him, but then he said this, or he did that, right? So, he says, what perspective can the special have that doesn't change, right, constantly? All right, paragraph 9. Those who are special must defend illusions against the truth. For what is specialness but an attack upon the will of God? You love your brother not while it is this you would defend against him. This is what he attacks and you protect. Here is the ground of battle, which you wage against him. Here must he be your enemy and not your friend. Never can there be peace among the different. He is your friend because you are the same. Okay? You are the same. You are both love and grandeur. But this idea of individuality, specialness, has substituted for that. Right? And when we think we're special, we think we're individuals, right? We have to keep proving it. We have to defend illusions against the truth. No, this is what's real. This is what, look at my body. How could you deny that it's real? Right? And he did this and he did that. Right? And look at the great mountains. Aren't they beautiful? Look at the sunset. Right? Doesn't that prove that we're here? Right? Doesn't that prove that God moves among us? We're always defending the illusion against the truth, which is that there is only the oneness. There's no form, actually. All right? try not to be afraid of that. Just bring it. If you're afraid of that idea, just keep asking Jesus to help you with it. That's all. Like Ken always said, Dr. Wapnick always said, nobody's going to go poof. Nobody's going to grab you and hurl you into reality, as Jesus says. Right? You're not going to be taken and abruptly hurled into reality. It's not going to happen. You're going to be gently wakened from this dream. All right? Because those who are special have to defend illusions against the truth. For what is specialness? What is this idea of separation and individuality except an attack on the will of God? The will of God is the oneness. The oneness, the extension of the oneness. That's the will of God. So this idea that I could be an individual is an attack on that. All right? And he says, you don't love your brother while it is this that you would defend. While I'm defending the fact that we're all individuals here, it's impossible to love your brother, to love the other person. All right? And this is what he attacks. He does the same thing. And you protect your individuality. All right? And here is the battleground. Here's the ground of battle which you wage against him. Here must he be your enemy in this ego condition. He has to be your enemy, not your friend. And here comes a quotable quote here. Never can there be peace among the different. As they used to say, put that in your pipe and smoke it. He is your friend because you are the same. He is your friend because you are the same. So every time we have this little twinge, this twinge of malice, as he says, just notice these things. Begin to notice. Because you can't be peaceful with a little twinge of malice. And you can't be peaceful with full-blown rage either. But Jesus says really no difference, because a little twinge of malice, you're outside the mind that thought of you, or you think you are. You're not in that milieu of peace, that peaceful garden, all right, from which all the answers grow. All righty. We made it through without drifting, mostly. And thus ends the continuation of session 183. Right? And I thank you for giving me this opportunity. All righty? So let's notice these things. Let's not repress that desire to be separate. All right? And when you get the urge, just bring it to reason, bring it to Jesus, and be willing to have your perspective corrected. All righty then. Bye now.